Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely demystify Colorado's highly unique real estate licensing model. We're essentially mapping out your survival guide for reaching the absolute top of the industry. Whether you're just starting out and getting your feet wet or you're preparing to finally open your own firm, Colorado's regulatory landscape is incredibly specific. Mastering it, well, that's absolutely the key to a long, successful career. So let's jump right in. Here is a quick look at our agenda for today. We'll be running through the 3 broker tiers, becoming an employing broker, the supervision mandates, mastering trust and escrow, and we'll wrap up with entity compliance and insurance. All right, let's get started with Section 1, the 3 broker tiers. So understanding this hierarchy is absolutely essential, mostly because it dictates exactly what you can and cannot do out there in the market. Since way back in 1997, Colorado has used this tiered single licensing system. This was actually a really progressive move that essentially abolished the old traditional distinction between a salesperson and a broker. What this means for you is that everyone is technically a broker, but your authority to operate independently or to manage others depends entirely on where you sit on this ladder. Down at the base, we have the associate broker. In this tier, you require constant supervision, and you literally cannot practice outside an established firm. Now, after 2 years of active experience, you can upgrade to an independent broker. This is great because it gives you the autonomy to operate as a sole proprietor, but there's a catch. You cannot hire any employees. You are essentially an army of one. Finally, sitting right at the pinnacle, we have the employing broker, who holds the ultimate authority to manage a firm and supervise other licensees. Wow, 168 hours. That is the massive, mandatory education barrier you have to clear just to become an entry-level associate broker. It's a lot, right? Well, Colorado heavily prioritizes technical competence over mere salesmanship. This intensive curriculum, which is approved by the Department of Private and Occupational Schools, heavily emphasizes legal documentation and regulatory compliance. I mean, you spend 48 hours just on real estate law and practice, and then another 48 hours purely on Colorado contracts and regulations. The state basically views legal errors as the #1 threat to consumer protection, so they are going to make absolutely sure you're deeply versed in the rules before you ever write your first contract. Moving right along, let's dive into Section 2, becoming an employing broker. Okay, so let's say you've put in your 2 years as an active broker, and you're looking to upgrade to the top of the profession. This isn't just a simple administrative title change. It is a comprehensive validation of your readiness to lead. But getting there requires you to meet 3 very strict prerequisites to prove your managerial competence. First off, you need those 2 years of active, verifiable experience. Second, you've got to complete a 24-hour brokerage administration course. This is where your focus has to shift from just closing deals to actually managing risk, handling trust accounts, and creating office policies. And third, and this is perhaps the most rigorously audited step of the whole process, you must complete a 50-point experience affidavit. And that brings us to the magic number, 50. You need 50 points of verifiable experience. And here's the kicker. You must have accumulated these points within the 5 years immediately preceding your application. So no, you cannot just rely on a bunch of deals you closed a decade ago. The Colorado Real Estate Commission uses this strictly quantitative, point-based system to make sure you have a really diverse, robust history of real-world transactions before they hand you the keys to supervise other people. It's genuinely fascinating how Colorado strategically weighs your experience based on the complexity and the risk of the transaction. For example, a really complex commercial or vacant land sale nets you 6 points, while a standard residential sale only earns you 3. Administering a commercial property management transaction, that gets you 4 points. The state also highly rewards mentorship. If you spend a full year with delegated supervisory authority from an employing broker, basically ensuring compliance for the brokerage, you earn 5 points for that year. It's a brilliant system, honestly, designed to ensure that the people in authority truly possess a nuanced understanding of high-risk transactions. All right, let's keep the momentum going with Section 3, the supervision mandates. So the moment you become an employing broker, your primary legal duty completely shifts from executing transactions to regulatory supervision. You now face strict vicarious liability. The state actually dictates 2 completely distinct levels of oversight. For all your agents, you have to provide reasonable level supervision. What does that look like? It means maintaining a written office policy manual that everyone has to sign, reviewing executed contracts to catch any legal errors, and retaining transaction files for 4 years. However, if you hire a newer associate, someone with less than 2 years of active experience, the mandate drastically shifts. You must provide a high level of supervision. And let me tell you, this is incredibly proactive. It practically mimics an apprenticeship. You have to monitor their transactions from contracting all the way through closing, and either you or an experienced delegated broker must actually attend their closings. You are literally the firewall between your new agents and state regulatory action. Which brings us to a very critical topic. Section 4, Mastering Trust and Escrow. Listen up, because we are now entering the absolute most dangerous area of risk for any managing broker facing a state audit. This is where administrative oversight meets strict financial stewardship. To survive in this business, you must intimately understand MBTO, that's money belonging to others. These are funds you accept as a broker, things like earnest money or security deposits. Commingling these funds with your personal or business operating accounts is strictly 100% prohibited. Let me be perfectly clear. If you deposit a client's earnest money into your operating account just to help cover this month's office rent, you aren't just making a tiny accounting error, you are begging for immediate disciplinary action. It is essentially speedrunning the loss of your license. Don't do it. To prevent that kind of fraud, Colorado mandates a really strict monthly three-way reconciliation process. And if you are a property manager holding funds, this is totally non-negotiable. It relies on 3 pillars. Pillar 1, your bank balance. That's the actual physical cash held by the institution. Pillar 2, your chronological journal balance of all your receipts and disbursements. And Pillar 3, the sum of your individual client ledgers. These 3 numbers must align perfectly. If they are off by even a penny, your account is out of compliance. Oh, and it's vital to note that no single client ledger can ever have a negative cash balance. Think about it. A negative balance essentially implies you're using one client's money to fund another, which is a massive, glowing red flag for auditors. Furthermore, Chapter 5 of the Commission Rules lays out some highly specific mandates. Property managers, you have to maintain entirely separate accounts for rental receipts and security deposits. Yes, even if you're only managing a single property. Additionally, the bank account name itself has to legally identify its fiduciary nature. It must include the word trust or escrow, something like Smith Realty Rental Escrow. This is crucial because it protects those client funds from your own personal liabilities or bankruptcies. And just as a quick reminder, every single piece of transaction documentation has to be retained for exactly 4 years. Finally, let's wrap things up with Section 5, Entity Compliance and Insurance. You know, opening a brokerage isn't just about knowing real estate law, it is heavily about corporate law too. Your corporate shield requires strict Secretary of State compliance. First things first, your LLC or corporation must maintain good standing. You do this by filing annual periodic reports along with a $25 fee. If you slip up and fall out of good standing, your entity becomes delinquent. And that's bad news because it means you cannot maintain court proceedings to collect debts or enforce liens, and title companies will flat out halt your closings. Also, you definitely need to take note of a major recent legislative change, House Bill 24-1137. Starting July 1, 2025, individual registered agents must explicitly verify their Colorado residency using a state driver's license or IT. So the state is clearly significantly tightening its grip on corporate accountability. To ensure your financial survival, the state also mandates errors and omissions insurance. In Colorado, every single active broker has to maintain an E&O policy. The minimums are a $100,000 per claim limit and an annual aggregate limit of $300,000. It also has to include a maximum deductible of $1,000 for damages, with zero deductible for legal defense. Now, if your firm is an LLC or a corporation that employs other brokers, the entity itself must also carry its own E&O insurance. It really is the ultimate safety net for the massive liability you're taking on as an employing broker. So, we have covered a ton of ground today. We've seen the rigorous 168-hour start, that complex 50-point path to the top, the incredibly intense supervision mandates, and the downright unforgiving financial compliance required to stay in business. And that leaves us with one final crucial question to consider for your real estate career. You might be perfectly able to meet all these regulatory requirements on paper, but are you truly ready to shift from personal sales production to being the ultimate regulatory firewall for an entire firm? The employing broker license isn't just a fancy status symbol, it's a profound, serious responsibility. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. I really hope this comprehensive look at Colorado's system helps you map out your next successful move.